A galaxy on the edge of collapse, an empire built on cloning now faces rebellion, betrayal, and the shadow of its own destruction. The Foundation, once fragile, now grows into the greatest threat the Cleons have ever seen. And in the middle of it all, Hari Seldon's grand plan twists in ways even he never predicted. Season 3 of Foundation didn't just end with answers, it left us with haunting questions. Questions that demand to be explored if we want to understand where Season 4 might take. Season 3 of Foundation closed with a storm of revelations, shocking sacrifices, and turning points that reshaped the entire galaxy. To understand where the story might go next, we need to carefully look back at how it all ended. The choices made in these final moments aren't just dramatic, they're pieces of a puzzle that Asimov himself designed, though Apple's version plays with them in bold and surprising ways. First, let's look at the Cleons and the Empire. For centuries, the Clone Dynasty held power with iron hands and identical faces. But cracks in their system of absolute control grew wider in Season 3. The once perfect line of rulers began to fight among themselves. Each generation of Brother Dawn, Brother Day, and Brother Dusk showing new flaws. The genetic purity that was supposed to keep the Empire eternal now feels more like its curse. By the finale, betrayal wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. We watched as the very idea of the Empire's unshakable stability was questioned. This matters because Season 4 could be the moment when the Empire falls, or at least loses its myth of immortality. Now, shift to the Foundation itself. This is no longer just a small colony of mathematicians and scholars. Over time, it transformed into a growing force, fueled by belief in Hari Seldon's vision. But Season 3 proved that faith in the plan can be as dangerous as it is inspiring. Gaal Dornick and Salvor Hardin faced choices that pushed them beyond simply surviving. They had to decide what it really means to carry Hari's legacy forward. These weren't just battles fought with weapons, they were battles of trust, of love, and of destiny. And yes, the emotional sacrifices cut deep. Fans are still debating what those final decisions mean, especially with characters who may not return in the same way. Then there's the shadow of the Second Foundation. Throughout Season 3, their presence felt like whispers in the dark. We know they're out there, watching, calculating, perhaps even guiding events without anyone realizing it. The finale hinted strongly that their influence will no longer stay in the background. If Season 3 was about exposing the cracks in the Empire and testing the strength of the first Foundation, then Season 4 might very well bring the Second Foundation fully into play. And when that happens, everything changes. Because in Asimov's vision, the Second Foundation isn't just a rival power, it's the secret safeguard of humanity's future. Finally, let's not forget the emotional core. While we all love the galaxy-spanning conflicts and the massive sci-fi visuals, Foundation works because it never forgets the people caught in the middle. Salvor's sacrifices, Gaal's struggle with destiny, and Hari's own evolution as more than just a recording of a dead man all remind us that the story is about human choices. The end of Season 3 wasn't just about who won a battle, it was about what those battles cost. So, when we look back at the finale, we see not just a conclusion, but a door opening. A door into Season 4, where every choice made will echo louder than ever before. The Cleons cannot hold their throne forever. The Foundation cannot follow the plan blindly. And the galaxy itself stands at a crossroads. Chaos or order. Freedom or control? Destiny or chance? The ending of Foundation Season 3 is not just another cliffhanger, it's a reshaping of the chessboard. The pieces we thought were fixed are scattered, and the moves we thought were predictable are suddenly impossible to guess. To truly grasp what this finale means, we need to pull apart the threads, the fall of the Cleons, the rise of the Foundation, the sacrifices of our key heroes, and the looming shadow of the Second Foundation. Let's begin with the Cleonic Dynasty. From the very first season, we were told the Empire was eternal because it was built on endless copies of Cleon I, but Season 3 hammered home that even perfection is fragile when it repeats too many times. By the finale, the cracks in this system were wide enough to swallow the throne itself. Betrayals inside the dynasty were no longer whispers, they became brutal acts of survival. Each clone, shaped by the same genetic code, now felt more like a stranger than a brother. This collapse is symbolic. It shows us that the very idea of eternal power is a myth, and Season 3 tears it apart before our eyes. When the curtain closed, the Cleons were not the towering gods of old, they were simply frightened men in a collapsing palace. Now, let's move to the foundation in Hari Seldon's plan. Throughout the season, Hari's predictions seemed unshakable, his psychohistory an unbreakable machine that mapped the galaxy's fate. But the finale pushed us to see its limits. The Foundation's leaders realized that blindly following the plan doesn't guarantee survival, it demands sacrifice. Salvor Hardin's choices in particular left scars not only on the story but on the viewers. She became the embodiment of what it means to bend destiny, to fight for something more than numbers in an equation. Gaal Dornick, on the other hand, stood at a crossroads between belief in Hari's vision and the terrifying freedom of carving her own path. The ending wasn't just about victory or defeat, it was about asking, is the plan guiding humanity or is humanity trapped inside it? One of the most striking threads is Hari himself. Once only a ghost in a recording, Hari evolved into something far greater. By the finale, he was no longer a shadow of the man he used to be. He had become unpredictable, shaped by interactions with Gaal, Salvor, and the galaxy itself. This evolution means that Hari is no longer simply following the script of psychohistory. He has agency, personality, and flaws. And that is dangerous. Because if the plan is meant to be impersonal and exact, Hari's growing humanity could make him the very reason the plan fails, or perhaps the reason it succeeds, in ways no one could have calculated. But Season 3 saved some of its most powerful beats for the second Foundation. Their presence has always lingered in the shadows, a ghost story whispered by those who know the truth of Hari's design. By the finale, the clues were impossible to ignore. Their reach, their knowledge, their ability to shape minds, it all suggested that they were not only watching, but subtly guiding the events of the season. If Season 3 cracked the door open, then Season 4 might push it wide, forcing the first Foundation to face a truth it has avoided for too long. They are not the only guardians of the future. The second Foundation could be the savior of humanity or its silent jailer, and then comes the emotional impact. The finale was not just about galactic politics or the math of history. It was about sacrifice. Characters we have followed since the beginning gave everything for a cause larger than themselves. Salvor's fate still ripples through the fandom, leaving many to wonder if her story is truly finished or if Foundation has one more twist waiting for us. The emotions of loss, hope, and defiance that closed Season 3 remind us why this story is so powerful. Because beneath the empires and equations, Foundation is about people. People who love, people who fear, and people who dare to imagine a future worth fighting for. So when the screen faded to black, what were we left with? A galaxy unbalanced. An empire weakened. A Foundation divided between faith and doubt. And a shadow force, the second Foundation, ready to step out from the darkness. The ending wasn't closure, it was ignition. A spark for Season 4, where every storyline we thought we understood could shift into something entirely new. Asterisk, if Season 3 ended with questions, then Season 4 will live or die by the answers. But the beauty of Foundation is that those answers are never simple. They're layered, full of misdirection, and often darker than we expect. So let's unravel the possible roads ahead. Where could Season 4 take us? Let's begin with the crumbling throne of the Empire. The Cleonic Dynasty has always been the show's symbol of absolute control. 3 clones, 1 throne, endless cycles. But by the end of Season 3, the cracks became canyons. The dynasty's power was built on sameness, but Season 3 proved sameness breeds weakness. In Season 4, the question isn't whether the Empire will break, it's how it will break. Will civil war rip through the palace walls as surviving Cleons turn against each other? Or will rebellion from the outer worlds finally topple the dynasty once and for all? A darker possibility is that one Cleon, unlike any before him, rises as a tyrant stronger than all his brothers combined. The idea that the genetic curse could produce a Cleon more unpredictable than Psychohistory itself is terrifying and thrilling. On the other side of the galaxy, the First Foundation stands at a crossroads. It has grown powerful, yes, but also divided. Faith in Hari's plan is no longer absolute. Some believe the plan is sacred. Others think it's a cage. Season 4 could turn this philosophical split into open conflict. Imagine a foundation split into factions, one following the cold math of psychohistory, the other following the dangerous freedom of human choice. That conflict could tear the movement apart even as it grows closer to becoming the galaxy's dominant force. And then there's Hari Seldon himself. Once a ghost, then a mentor, Hari now feels like a wild card. His evolution in Season 3 hinted that he might not even be bound by the plan anymore. If Hari is free, then the plan may already be broken. Season 4 could explore whether Hari becomes the savior of the galaxy or its greatest threat. Imagine the irony of psychohistory's founder becoming the very reason his own vision collapses. The emotional core of this theory is devastating. What happens when the man who designed the future chooses to rewrite it? Now we turn to Gaal Dornick. Throughout the series, Gaal has wrestled with destiny, torn between following Hari's vision and finding her own path. In Season 4, she could emerge as the true leader of the Foundation. But her leadership will not be simple. Gaal's visions of the future have always carried both hope and dread. If she takes control, she may steer the galaxy toward survival, but at the cost of freedom. Or, worse, she could realize that saving humanity requires sacrificing everything she loves. This tension will make her one of the most dangerous and compelling figures in Season 4. Of course, we cannot ignore the Second Foundation. Their whispers in Season 3 will become thunder in Season 4. In Asimov's books, the Second Foundation is humanity's hidden safeguard, using mind control and secret knowledge to preserve the plan. If the show follows this path, we could see them stepping out of the shadows to confront both the Empire and the First Foundation. But here's the twist. What if they're not saviors at all? What if their control over human thought makes them the true villains of the story? Season 4 could pit freedom against survival, forcing our heroes to decide if living under the Second Foundation's guidance is any better than kneeling to the Cleons. And then comes the question of new worlds and wars. Season 3 hinted at galaxies still untouched, planets waiting to be drawn into the Foundation's orbit. In Season 4, we might see the beginning of galactic-scale wars, not just between Empire and Foundation, but between ideologies, between futures. Imagine fleets clashing not only over territory, but over belief in destiny itself. These aren't just battles for power. They're battles for the soul of humanity. So, what's the heart of Season 4? Chaos, the Empire collapsing, the Foundation fracturing, the Second Foundation rising, Hari rewriting himself, Gaal stepping into the spotlight. Every thread leads to a galaxy that is no longer following the script. And maybe that's the point. Psychohistory promised predictability, but Season 4 could show us the truth. The future can never be fully calculated. Humanity is too unpredictable, too flawed, and too powerful. That's why Season 4 may be the most explosive chapter yet. Because when history breaks free from the plan, anything becomes possible. And in a galaxy where anything is possible, the story is only just beginning. The ending of Foundation Season 3 was not just another chapter closing. It was the sound of glass shattering. The Empire, once untouchable, now trembles on hollow foundations. The First Foundation, once faithful, now questions its very reason for existing. And the Second Foundation, once a rumor whispered in the dark, now waits like a shadow ready to step into the light. Every storyline, every sacrifice, every betrayal from Season 3 has set the stage for a Season 4 that promises to be nothing short of revolutionary. Let's pause and look at what we've really witnessed. We saw the Cleonic Dynasty bleed, not just from outside threats, but from within. The illusion of eternal control cracked open, reminding us that no system, no matter how perfect it seems, can last forever when it's built on fear. The clones were never gods. They were men repeating the same mistakes until the cycle itself began to rot. Season 4 now carries the question, will the Cleons vanish into history, Or will one rise from the ashes to become something far more dangerous? We also watch the Foundation transform. It's no longer a small colony fighting for survival, it's a movement, powerful enough to challenge an empire, yet fragile enough to collapse under its own contradictions. Salvor's sacrifice reminded us that destiny demands a price. Gaal's visions showed us that the future is never set in stone. Hari's evolution warned us that even the plan itself can fracture. These aren't just plot points, they're warnings. Season 4 could be the moment when the Foundation either fulfills its destiny or destroys itself trying, and then there's the looming presence of the second Foundation. If Season 3 teased them, Season 4 could unleash them. Imagine an entire order of minds sharper, colder, and more ruthless than any empire or Foundation leader. Their mission may be noble, to preserve the future of humanity. But their methods, control, manipulation, domination of thought raise a terrifying question. Is a future without freedom worth surviving at all? That, perhaps, will be the greatest conflict of all. Not just empire versus Foundation, not just human versus destiny, but freedom versus control, individuality versus survival. This is why Foundation feels timeless. It's not just a story of spaceships and empires. It's a mirror, a reflection of our own questions. Can power last forever? Do we shape destiny, or does destiny shape us? Is survival worth the cost of freedom? These questions burned through Season 3, and they will blaze even brighter in Season 4, but here's the truth. The story is no longer in the hands of the characters alone. It's in your hands too, the fans, the viewers, the theorists who debate every scene and every line. Foundation thrives on discussion. So let's ask, what do you think will happen next? Will the Empire crumble completely or rise again in a new, twisted form? Will the first Foundation follow Hari's plan to the letter, or reject it and forge something entirely new? And what role will the second Foundation play, savior, villain, or something terrifying in between? Season 4 holds the answers, but until then, the galaxy belongs to speculation. That's the magic of this story. It invites us not just to watch, but to imagine. To dream of what could happen when history itself is broken, and the future is a battlefield. So as we wait, remember this. Season 3 left us with more than just questions, it left us with possibilities. Endless, unpredictable, dangerous possibilities. And if Foundation has taught us anything, it's that the future is never what we expect. It's always stranger, it's always harder, and it's always worth fighting for. Now it's your turn. Drop your theories in the comments. What's your boldest prediction for Season 4? Which character do you think will rise and which will fall? Could the Empire survive? Could the plan shatter? Or will the galaxy find a path none of us have seen coming? Let's build this conversation together, because half the fun of Foundation is dreaming about what comes next. And if you love exploring these deep dives, make sure to stay tuned. We'll be breaking down more theories, more sci-fi epics, and more endings that demand answers. Until then, remember, the Empire is not eternal, the plan is not perfect, and the future is never guaranteed. The galaxy waits. And so do we.